This is part 2 of animals which may have inspired the design of monsters within Monster Hunter Rise. Today, we will be looking into Somnacanth as well as the Bishaten. Hey everyone, Corno Pinoy X here once again, back with another Monster Hunter video, and this is the second part of our mini-series where we take a look at the monsters within Monster Hunter Rise and compare them to real-life animals and creatures in order to understand the inspiration behind the design of the monsters coming up within Monster Hunter Rise. Now, if you haven't seen the previous episode where we took a look at the Great Izuchi, Tetranodon, and Aknasom, I've gone ahead and put a link in the description below so you can go ahead and check it out for yourself. Now in this one, we're going to take a look at the new Leviathan coming up in Rise, which is the Somnacanth, as well as the new Fang Beast, known as the Bishaten. Let's go ahead and take a look at Somnacanth first and foremost, which is the new Leviathan coming up in Monster Hunter Rise. Kicking things off with the Somnacanth, first up, let's talk about the general inspiration behind the monster. According to Yasunori Ichinose, the Somnacanth is one of the few monsters within Rise that doesn't take direct inspiration from Japanese mythology or Japanese yokai. This monster instead takes inspiration from Western interpretations of a modern mermaid. What this means is that the characteristics of the Somnacanth takes heavy inspiration from a Western mythology instead, in this case the mermaid. When we take a look at the coloration of the monster, you'll notice that the skin of the monster, or the scales across its body, is meant to represent human skin. That is the reason why it has a tan-orange coloration supported by a white underbelly. It's a variation of human skin that allows the monster to create the illusion of possibly being human when being seen from a distance. So you're starting to see a little bit of that variation on human skin within the monster. Alongside this, the facial structure of the Somnacanth, especially on the 3D model, looks more human-like in comparison to other monsters. This is one of the unique aspects of the Somnacanth that really stands out in comparison to other creatures introduced in Rise so far. So this is one of the key things that they utilize in order to interpret a mermaid. Finally, when we take a look at the fins of the monster, they're meant to represent clothing on a human, and with the head, they're meant to represent hair. So you're starting to see characteristics of a human being interpreted with animal parts when we take a look at Somnacanth in Monster Hunter Rise. Now, along with the human-like aesthetics of the Somnacanth, you also have the fish aesthetics. This means that the monster does have fish characteristics on it, and they're fairly obvious. In this case, it's going to be the fin of the monsters. The fins are once again portraying human hair and a dress, but these are more than likely inspired by the fish known as a Siamese fighting fish. These creatures have extremely long flowing fins across their body, and this can be seen on the Somnacanth as well. So more than likely, in order for them to interpret the human aspect of the monster, they utilize the fins of a Siamese fighting fish in order to create the design. Alongside this, Capcom has mentioned that for the swimming capabilities of Somnacanth, they utilize the way a sea otter swims in order to showcase how this monster would naturally flow in the environment in which it lives in. So not only do you have the fish aesthetics and the human characteristics on this monster, you have the abilities of a sea mammal in order to complete the design of Somnacanth coming up in Rise. Now, moving on from the Somnacanth, let's go ahead and talk about the Bishaten, one of the upcoming fanged beasts within Monster Hunter Rise. Now, this monster's main inspiration in Japanese mythology is known as the Tengu. However, according to Yasunori Ichinose, this monster is not just inspired by any typical Tengu here. We are taking a look at the Karasu Tengu. Karasu in Japanese means crow, meaning that we are taking a look at a monster with crow-like characteristics on it. That is the reason the monster has a very prominent beak on its mouth. Now, when we compare this monster to modern-day crows, there's one specific type of crow that I can compare this to in order to match the color of the monster as well as the bird-like features on this creature. These are known as azure jays. Now, azure jays in reality are crows with extremely prominent blue coloration, similar to what we see with the Bishaten here. However, in terms of accents across their body, the monster is accented with a creamy white coloration in contrast to the black colorations that we see on the azure jay. So there are some differences between the real-life creature and the monster in terms of coloration, but overall, I think this could be the crow that inspired the design of the Bishaten when we're taking a look at the crow-like features. Now, moving away from the avian features of the monster, let's just return to Monkey here for a moment and talk about the characteristics of the Bishaten based on a primate. When we take a look at the general silhouette and anatomy of the monster, This creature reminds me of two very specific kinds of monkeys. These are going to be the mandrill as well as the baboon. When we take a look at the upper body structure of the monster, it looks more ape-like, similar to that of a mandrill. Alongside this, there's the part of the monster's facial structure that has something going down the middle, again similar to what we see with the mandrill's nose having a red coloration that goes down the middle of its face. However, when we take a look at the lower body structure of the Bishaten, this is where we start to see the baboon features. The lower body structure of the Bishaten is far more compact in comparison to the rest of its body, but not only that, it has an extremely prehensile tail, which takes on the shape of a Tengu fan in order to incorporate the Tengu characteristics on this monster, not seen on a mandrill. So this means that the monster is a merge between a baboon and a mandrill with regards to its general body structure. And finally, I think there's one more animal that possibly inspired the design of the Bishaten here, and that is going to be some form of bat. When we take a look at the wings of the monster, there is a patagium underneath all of those feathers, allowing the monster to glide around. These patagiums would be very similar to the webbing that we see with pseudo-flying wyverns, and if we were to compare that to real-life animals, there are types of mammals that do have the exact same patagium structure, which are going to be bats. So more than likely, Capcom took the idea of a bat's wing and then covered it with feathers in order to make sure that the monster maintains the Karasu Tengu features on it while still maintaining a mammalian-like structure to it. And that's currently all we have time for in observing these two monsters coming up within Monster Hunter Rise and comparing them to real-life animals to better understand the potential inspiration that created the design of these monsters. Now once again, just as a final note, these are only speculations as to what kind of animals Capcom possibly utilized in order to create these monsters. The only real thing that has been confirmed so far is that these monsters are based on certain mythologies. In the case of Somnakhan, it is based on a mermaid, and in the case of the Bishaten, it is based on the Karasu Tengu. Outside of that, the animals that we've looked into are merely speculations that may have contributed to the overall design of these monsters. Now with that being said, what do you think about the Somnakhan and the Bishaten's design as of right now within Monster Hunter Rise? Let us know in the comments below your thoughts and opinions regarding the Somnakhan and the Bishaten coming up with this title. Now with all of that being said, if you enjoyed these videos, please consider leaving a like on the video itself and subscribing to the channel as well as hitting that bell icon so you can go ahead and catch up on any future Monster Hunter content that I might be doing or any other games that I might be playing in future. Until then, I hope you enjoyed this video, thanks ever so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Onward and upward.